Well, a very good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you, wherever you are listening to this podcast, either live with us here or on your favorite streaming service. This is Natalie Ashton with you from Open Door Coaching. And welcome to our Coaching Café, where we're exploring the ICF Core Competencies and, in particular, coaching agreements. Going beyond today, what do you want to achieve? And I've just checked in with the alumni who are on the line, and I've said, come on, everyone, you need to jump in today and share all your great coaching questions. I'm flying solo today. Paula Jones-Hunt and Bridget are off coaching today. So I really look forward to hearing what you all have to say. And we have already found out we have people joining us from Los Angeles, from Singapore, from Japan, from Wellington, down the road in Melbourne, across to WA in Australia. And we've got our Indian alumni joining us as well. So we really are a truly global community, and it's wonderful to bring us all together at this time. And Sydney, Adelaide, I don't want to forget you, Brisbane, yes. Great. So before we begin, as always, let's us acknowledge the traditional owners, the custodians on the lands on which we're all meeting today, or you may be listening today, and their continuing connection to the land, waters, and communities of Australia and the lands from all around the world upon which you're joining us today. We pay our respects to them, to elders past, present, emerging, and elders from Indigenous communities from all around the world. And hi from Canberra as well, Sydney. We're really covered today, both here in Australia and internationally. So as we've been talking, we have been talking over the last couple of weeks now about the ICF Core Competencies. And thank you so much for your feedback. It does really feel great, I think, and this is what you've shared with us, that we're coming home to the ICF Core Competencies. We're coming home to reflect as coaching practitioners in the workplace and across all of the work that we do around what really makes us coaches as professional coaches. And today we're talking about establishing and maintaining the coaching agreement, so core competency number 3. And I really want to explore with you, how do we go beyond basic questions of what would you like to achieve? Of course, we need to do that in our coaching. We absolutely will do that in our coaching as one of our early coaching questions. And with that in mind, though, we want to stretch ourselves. So get ready to hit those keyboards and start putting those coaching questions in. I'm keen to hear what your favourite coaching questions are in establishing and maintaining agreements. For those of you who are new to our Coaching Cafe, welcome. We come together every week. You know that we love to share coaching knowledge, but also we want to have thought-provoking conversations, draw on the experience of the fabulous coaches on the line across the Open Door Coaching alumni. And of course, if you are collecting your ICF CCEs, please put them somewhere safe. I didn't do that, so I'm trying to practice what I preach, and they will be available for you at the end of the session. Okay, first up, a little bit of a public service announcement. We are very excited. International Coaching Week is next week. It runs the whole of the week. It's a global event to celebrate coaching, and professional coaching gives us a wonderful chance to reflect on ourselves as coaches and what it means to be part of this amazing profession. As you know, I've been coaching for over 20 years now, and it's something I want to do for the next 20 years, maybe even longer. Open Door is running Super Tuesday, so all of our events are on Tuesday, the 14th of May, and if you want to register for those events, please do go to the Open Door Coaching's website, coaching courses and training, look for the free Coaching Cafe. So where you register for this Coaching Cafe, register for the sessions. And yes, if you miss a session, don't worry, register anyway, because the recording will be available to you. So yes, thank you for those people that are saying that they're going to be joining all of the sessions. What a great opportunity. There's one in the morning, one at lunchtime, one in the afternoon. The lunchtime recording is listening to Bridget coaching, and we're going to debrief coaching demonstrations, which you've all asked for. And the morning, I have an international speaker who you are going to love to hear from. She's a researcher who's been researching coaching for many years now, And in the afternoon, Professor Grace McCarthy is joining us from the University of Wollongong. So Professor Andrea Ellinger in the morning and Professor Grace McCarthy in the afternoon. So lots of opportunity for you. Okay, that's my advertisement. I just really want to highlight that with you. Please just register as you would on the Coaching Cafe page. Alrighty, let's talk about our topic today. And if you wanted to find the minimum skill requirements for this core competency at the ACC level, the PCC level, or the MCC level, then go to coachingfederation.org in credentials and standards, look up performance evaluations, minimum skill requirements. So I've got the link there on the screen for you, but for those of you that can't see the screen, type in Coach Federation minimum skill requirements, and you will pick up the things that ICF assessors are looking for around this competency. This is something that Bridget and I look into quite often. All right, here we go. We know that the ICF Code of Ethics is underpinned by the ICF core values, and then the competencies relate through to those. So let's have a look at this competency together. First, with the definition. Now, I remember when the ICF core competencies got updated a few years ago now. I was so pleased to see that these definitions, the definitions of establish and maintains agreement, was one of the core competencies that really got an overhaul. And the reason for that is because I didn't feel at the time that it adequately reflected what happens in practice, in particular for workplace coaches. So for the work that we do, for professional coaches like yourselves who are involved in organizational executive coaching, etc. So now the definition has been updated. You can actually see, or I see this definition in two parts. The first part is that we part the definition, partners with the client and relevant stakeholders to create clear agreements about the coaching relationship, the process, the plans, and the goals. So that's the first part. And the second part of the definition, as I like to think about it, is establishes agreements for the overall coaching engagement, as well as those for each coaching session. So when we think about our certificate for workplace and business coaching, and most of our graduates are on the line here as well, which is wonderful, we're thinking about partnering with the client and relevant stakeholders. So remember our coaching triangle, our coaching relationships, and we're setting clear agreements that involve the stakeholders about the coaching relationship, the process, the plans, and the goals. So that's where you're putting all of those elements into your coaching proposals. What I like about this definition when it got updated is it acknowledges the coaching triangle. It acknowledges that there's a client, the coachee, involved in the relationship, but there is also in our work quite often a stakeholder, and that might be the coachee's manager, a HR manager, an L&D manager, and many of you are fulfilling that role as stakeholders as well. So that idea that we're partnering not only with the coachee, but with the people who also have an interest in the coaching program, I suppose, and let's face it, could be paying for the coaching program as well. That's a very important update and is included in part of our coaching agreements. Now, don't forget, and I'm just pointing this out also for people who might be new as well, is that when we're doing that partnering and we're putting our proposals together, we also need to talk about confidentiality and the feedback loop. So what's the role of confidentiality? What will the coach, if anything, disclose to the stakeholders? And of course, we're very clear about confidentiality in that regards. And also the feedback loop. So who's going to give the feedback about the coaching arrangement? And of course, you know, our position is it's the coachee that needs to have that interaction with the stakeholder, not the coach. So we're being very clear about our lines there as well. Let's have a Look, thank you for jumping in because I'm flying solo today, so I'm really keen to pick up your questions here. Let's have a look. Sonali, thank you. You said, could you please share a bit more about the last bit, the agreement for each coaching session, how one can best do that? Yes, that's the second part of it. And you said, do have an overall coaching agreement, then verbally set the expectations each session as we go. Yes, that's right. That's the way, that's our approach. So our coaching agreement will cover the overall, think about chunking. Our coaching agreement will cover the high level goals, and then we're chunking down into each coaching session for what the agreement is for the coaching session and how it relates to the overall agreement. So that's where the second part of the actual definition comes into it. Establishes an agreement for the overall engagement as well as for each coaching session. And we want to be making sure that each coaching session as we go along, as I mentioned, is linked through to the overall coaching engagement. Now, one thing I do write in our proposals is that this is the main thing that we're going to be talking about, but we also do just-in-time coaching. So we leave a little bit of flexibility that if there's a burning topic that the client actually wants to talk about just in time, then we can also cover that as well. Thank you for the question. We've got a Q&A coming in here as well. Oh, a PDF of the coaching triangle. I don't have it with me here. Robin, thanks for the question, but we can put it on our blog, so check the blog page afterwards. And yeah, the coaching triangle, it's the coachee, the client, and the stakeholder, and we're being very clear about the confidentiality and how the information flows between people. And if you're doing a proposal for a client who's new, dropping that coaching triangle into the actual proposal is a good idea as well. Yeah, thank you. Excellent, that's the way. Great. So let's dig into now these two parts. And as I said, I find it most useful to actually think about this core competency in particular in two parts. So the first part related to stakeholder engagement and relationships, that the first 5 elements of the coaching of establishing an agreement, I think relates to the first part. So the first 5 elements relate to the first part in establishing the coaching agreement, and the other 4 parts relate to the second part. So have a think about this now in terms of what you're putting into your proposals, and also how you're describing coaching if you're engaging your coachees. Now, for those of you that have done our Cert 4, you know with the extended grow model, these questions are built into the extended grow model, which is great. It makes it very easy for us to coach. For those of you that are thinking about the extended grow model and questions you've got to be asking, this is our purpose for today. So you're not going to necessarily do this every single time with a coachee, but you will do it at least as you're partnering, as you're setting up those agreements. So explaining what coaching is and what it's not, describing the process to relevant clients and stakeholders. So I did a webinar, it was last week, where we launched a new coaching program. And as part of that webinar, I actually had in it what coaching is and what it's not, what you can expect from us as coaches. And we are not doing therapy, and we're not doing counseling, and it's not a therapeutic response, etc. So we won't do that every single time, but we will do that in the beginning. Reaches agreement about what is and is not appropriate in the relationship, what is being offered and what will not be offered, and the responsibilities of the client and the relevant stakeholders. Now, again, in this webinar, introductory webinar, because we were launching the program to a large number of people, these were actually the headings I used in my PowerPoint, in my slide pack. I actually said what is appropriate that we'll be discussing in the actual coaching sessions for what we're offering as coaches. And I do have a slide that talks about the roles and responsibilities. So what my role as, and our role as open door coaches is, what your role as a client is, and what we expect a stakeholders' role to be as well. So being clear about what those roles are is actually part of the partnering. It's a really excellent thing to do. And I wouldn't take for granted actually that everyone knows that. So particularly if you're doing an introduction and the webinar is going to be listened to quite a few people, or if you're doing a three-way conversation. So often we will often set up that three-way conversation, the coaching triangle, at the beginning of a coaching agreement. And we will be talking to the stakeholder, the manager, the HR partner, whoever's involved, about what their role is in the coaching. And we will agree it. The coach, the coachee, and the stakeholder will agree that, and we will build on it from there. So just some things to remind you that don't always take for granted that people know this. And what happens then if we do that three-way coaching conversation, then we are engaging the stakeholders in the manner that's actually appropriate for the coaching as well. So a good thing to think about. Oh, Audrey, thank you. Is there a good template for this agreement that we can buy or have access to? Well, let us look into that for you as well. We include it as part of our coaching program, but let me look into it. We haven't really thought about that you could buy or access the agreement, but you will you'll hear from what I'm talking about almost headings that come into your proposal. Just pick up these elements I'm talking about and turn it into a heading. Might give you some clues about how to do that easily as well. Excellent. Thank you for the questions. Please jump in, everyone. All right. So the second part is reaches agreement about the guidelines, specific parameters of the coaching relationship, such as logistics, fees, scheduling, duration, termination, confidentiality, and inclusion of anything else. Now, for you, Audrey, when you're thinking about your proposal, and as we think about our proposals, we want to be talking. I always talk about the parameters. It's as part of our Cert 4 program, as you know, we've actually got that built in, that we're basically listing these things, and we're being very clear in our agreements about our fees, our duration, etc. So these become actual headings in your proposals. And to be honest, when the core competencies got updated, I was delighted to see this information, because it's quite good in terms of directing or giving some direction about what should be expected from an industry perspective. So, and of course, then you can check your proposals as well. Partners with the client and the relevant stakeholders to establish an overall coaching. So number 4 is partners with the relevant stakeholders to establish an overall coaching plan and the goals. So again, that's the larger picture, and then we're digging into the actual goals that might be achieved. So I want a three-way coaching conversation with that. Now, I do acknowledge that that's not always possible. So it's not always possible for the stakeholder to be involved. But as a minimum, I want some sort of connection. I want some sort of sign-off, or I want to check with the coachee that they have been, that they've talked to their manager and their stakeholders. We just want to get that buy-in as needed. Yeah. Oh, fantastic! Somebody has put a coaching agreement, sample agreement, into our chat there, a PDF. So thank you. That's really good. A bit of quick Google searching. Well done. And then we, as you know, will partner with the client to determine client and coach compatibility. Now, this is very important. As we know, that client-coach compatibility, we're working on that all the time. When you are part of a coaching panel, or you've got a group of coaches, I'm always thinking about, who is the best coach to partner with this person. And I'm not assuming it's me all the time, never. And there's no ego attached, actually, like, ooh, you've chosen me or you've chosen someone else. It's really, for me, about who's going to serve this person the most, and we can talk about that. So I think for individuals as well, it's good for us to really check in and think about, are we the best person to serve this client? And I think I've told you about a coaching relationship we have established with a client, whereby I'm doing part of the coach, and I'm bringing in another very senior coach who has very senior public service experience to coach the person as well. So I can bring a certain skill set to the coaching relationship, and the other coach who's involved, offering the client 2 or 3 coaching sessions, is bringing their very, very senior public service experience, because they can ask questions which are based on their experience. So something to think about. I like this idea, and I've been thinking a lot more about it, that we can partner with more than one coach to actually service the client as well. So I'm keen to hear your thoughts and ideas about that as well. Alrighty, let's have a look at the second part of the establishing and maintains coaching agreements. And this is where I want to offer you, linking back to our question at the beginning, we need to ask more than what would you like to achieve. So let's explore this together. Yes, at the beginning of a coaching conversation, we're going to ask, what would you like to talk about? What would you like to discuss in this coaching session? What would you like to achieve in this coaching session? So we might open up the coaching conversation with, what would you like to focus on today? Or what would you like to talk about today? Or what's the topic you'd like to focus on today? Then remembering that that's the topic. Now, given what you've discussed, the topic, what is it that you'd like to focus on in this coaching session? So the number 6 part of establishing agreement on our list is partners with their client to identify or reconfirm what they want to accomplish in the session. So I know this sounds for many of you like rookie coaching, but just remember to redo that. To talk about, well, that's the topic, but what would you like to cover in this coaching session in relation to that? So there's your chunking down. Now, the extra thing that you need to be doing, which we don't often hear, but if you're following the extended grow model, we will hear it, reconfirming during the coaching session what they wanted to accomplish. Now, this is a little bit of a thing to remember, particularly if you're going for PCC or advanced ACC. You need to be asking somewhere during that coaching conversation. So, coachee, given that we've now 20 minutes into our coaching conversation, I just want to reconfirm, is what we're talking about helping you accomplish what you want to? Somebody said to me once, that sounds passive aggressive. And I really had to reflect on that. I didn't want to come across as passive aggressive. Like, are you sure this is what you really want to achieve? It's not that. It's confirming that, and it's not to suggest or judge that what we're talking about is irrelevant, right? So we're not saying, oh, are you sure this is what you should be talking about? Or is this really relevant to our conversation? We're not asking that. What we're doing is asking a question around. So I just want to check in, how is what we're talking about now moving you towards what you wanted to achieve? And related to that, what we said at the beginning, or is there something else that you want to talk about? So we're doing that midpoint check-in. Bridget, when you get to listen to her coaching recording during International Coach Week, so next week when we play that recording for you, you will hear her ask a beautiful question here, which is, before we go on, I just want to check with you, what are you learning so far through our conversation? What a beautiful question. What are you learning? How is this conversation adding value? And rechecking in that it's what you wanted to talk about. So some beautiful questions there. Jump into the chat. Tell me what other questions you like to ask as well, that are your kind of go-to favorite questions. So number 7 of our elements is partners with the client to define what the client believes they need to address or resolve to achieve what they want to accomplish in the session. Now, you can hear 2 questions drop out of that. So what do you believe you need to address in order to accomplish what you'd like to achieve? Can you hear that question? It's a beautiful question. Or, so what do you think you need to resolve in order to accomplish what you want to achieve? Bridget also will ask, it's a part of our extended grow model, but when you listen to the recording, you will hear her specifically ask, So what challenges are getting in your way from what you want to accomplish, or what's inhibiting you from accomplishing that? So we're checking in here, not only on the challenges, but what do they specifically need to address? Now, what happens here is they might talk about, for example, a broad topic like exercise, but there's something else that needs to be addressed. So we have a broad topic like giving feedback to a coachee, or giving feedback to one of my employees, or my goal is around establishing better workplace practices around XYZ. So establishing better relationships with my stakeholders. That's the overall goal of the workplace coaching. What needs to be addressed in order for you to achieve that? And it will drop out those pieces underneath. Very, very nice coaching if we do this. I'm not seeing any updated questions people put in, only the initial discussion at the beginning of the session. Okay, yes, so that's okay, Brett and Gail. I don't think there's any other questions being dropped in. So please feel free, everybody, to drop your questions here as you go along. Yeah. It's okay, the chat's a bit quiet, that's okay. Jump in with your questions and I can read them out as we go as well. These questions that are questions I'm offering you, so feel free to jump in as well. Yeah, that's the way. Alrighty, so establishing, as I said, establishing the coaching agreement is so much more. Oh, the template wasn't in the chat. Okay, yes, okay. So the template I'm talking, okay, thank you. Sorry, I'll clear this up for you. So I'm talking about the work that we do in our certificate for workplace and business coaching. So someone mentioned, is there a template for a coaching proposal? We can look into that for you. I'm also talking about the extended grow model. So all of those questions, that's part of our Cert 4 program. We can look into putting that up for you as well. So yeah, this is not dropped into the chat at this point. I'm drawing out questions as we go along. Yeah. And the coaching triangle. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sorry to be causing confusion. I'm drawing from our program, but I haven't dropped them into the chat. I'm giving you more general commentary. Yeah, does that make sense? Alrighty. Okay, so as we were talking about, the establishing the coaching agreement is so much more than just that first question, what do you want to achieve? When we ask these other questions, when we ask about checking in and reconfirming how what we're talking about is linked back to the overall goal, when we're reconfirming what people are learning, what the coachee is learning from the conversation, when we ask questions around the need to address or resolve something in order to achieve that, that is really very nice coaching. So we can add those questions in as we go along. The other questions that we might be thinking about too, have a think about number 8 with me as well. Partners with the client to determine or reconfirm measures of success for what the client wants to accomplish in the coaching agreement or during an individual session. So again, you can hear this question, can't you, coming out of the actual element here. So do you mind, coachee, can we confirm up front the measure of success? So you can ask that question, what does success look like for you? Pretty straightforward question, isn't it? Or you could ask a question such as, so how will you know that you've achieved that? What will you see? What will it feel like? What will it look like to achieve that goal? Is there a measure of success that you have? So lovely questions there. The other thing, again, I really encourage you about reconfirming. So having talked about this topic now, let's reconfirm what would be your measure for success there, or have your measures of success changed? Now, that is a very, very nice question. Have your measures of success changed? Because say that they talk about, I want to build better relationships with stakeholders, and this is my measure of success. I'll be having one-on-one conversations with stakeholders once a fortnight. Maybe through our conversation, their measures of success change, and maybe the measure of success becomes something hypothetically like, actually, the stakeholders are reaching out to me to connect. So the measure of success in the beginning was I'm reaching out to them, but it's changed to they're reaching out to me. So that reconfirm element is a really, really critical part of what we do in each coaching session. And if you, as I said, are going high ACC into PCC, you want to make sure you're asking this question just as a bit of a heads up there. Yeah. Great. And of course, partners with the client to manage the time and the focus of the session. So there's many questions we can ask there around, given that we've got 10 minutes to go, or given that we're finishing up now, is there anything else that would make this session more complete for you? Is there anything else you need to focus on? So anything more that you can do around the time. The managing the time is also important here. If the client brings up another big topic, and you might say, well, given that that's a big topic, potentially, what I'm interested in, is that something you want to focus on now, or should we plan to discuss that in another coaching session? So you're managing, okay, what are we doing? What is the focus of this session? Remembering that the client can switch focus during the session as well. And we need to be flexible and adaptable. Rookie coaches will just stick with, no, this is what we talked about. Well, they won't say this, but they'll stick with, this is what we talked about, this is what we're going to do. But as more experienced coaches, like the coaches we have on the line, you'll flex a little bit. But you do need to ask the question, are we refocusing? Are we repartnering? Is there something else that we're going to talk about now? Or should we put that into another coaching conversation? So that's the 9th one and the final one. Josh says, I'd love to hear more about to any feedback from the coach to the stakeholder. I know that the main feedback loop is the coachee to the stakeholder, but what sort of high level feedback could be provided to the stakeholder if the stakeholder requests it? It's a very, very good question. Thank you for asking, and let's clarify that. I like to make sure up front what that feedback is going to be. And basically, if anything, it will be that the coaching sessions are happening, and these are the broad themes. I'm not going into any more of the detail. So it's when I'm talking stakeholders here too, it's normally in a bigger, broader program. So we might be reporting on the key themes. Otherwise, it's the coachee to the stakeholder. How we lay that out in the proposal is pretty well used those exact words. If there's to be reporting, this is how we're going to do it. We will let you know on a monthly basis that the coaching sessions have occurred or not, and we may offer the broad themes. Now, it's very, very tricky when you're talking about individual coaching sessions, so we try to stay out of that space basically, and say that. So, and if that's the case, then we will actually write that any feedback on the coaching program needs to come from the coachee, and we're not involved in that. So just be clear, if you're running a panel or a larger round of coaching sessions, what's going to happen there. Yeah, well done. You could ask scaling questions on a scale of 1 to 10. How important is topic to your goals over the next few weeks until we meet again? Lovely question. So that question, thank you, Sonali, can be put in anywhere across the coaching session as well, to check on, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is this to you? And as we continue this conversation, has that shifted in terms of the priority as well, which is a very nice approach as well. Annie asks, could you scale the key themes and only share the scaling scores? Yes, that's another possibility too. Yes, so that's a really nice idea, actually. I haven't thought of doing that. So you could say, the theme is building stakeholder relationships, and the coachee rates themselves a 7 on that at the moment, or the coachee rates themselves as an 8 on that at the moment. I like that idea. Thank you for jumping in. I haven't done that before, but it's a really nice idea. Yeah, so Josh says, great comment about the individual coaching scenario, because of course, if you're talking key themes and it's only one individual that you're coaching, then it's obvious what's going on. So yeah, but don't forget the stakeholders signed that off. So yeah, I'm very cautious here. I really am, because we got caught out where actually, on a coaching program a long time ago, the stakeholder changed, and the new stakeholder wanted to know all of this information. And we had to say to them, we've already signed an agreement, which is a confidentiality agreement. We signed XYZ. And the stakeholder, a bit of a kind of a rookie HR person, was insisting on having more and more information. And we said, we can't give you that because we've contracted in this manner. So it was a very difficult situation to try to work through and basically educate the stakeholders about what we could and couldn't do. So Audrey says you're going through that now. It's difficult, isn't it? Because, they are the senior stakeholder now. They're a new stakeholder. Very tricky situation. So you can hear the caution kick in here as well. Yeah. Yeah. Great. Okay. So, as we said, there's a lot more to than just what do you want to achieve. All of these coaching questions that I've offered you and people have offered as I've been picking them up, the scaling questions, for example, all of these coaching questions are part of establishes and maintains the agreement, not only at the beginning of the coaching program, but what we do in individual sessions as we go along. So perhaps when you're coaching next, you can just throw in a few more of these coaching questions. We are trying to make sure that what we're doing as we go along in the individual coaching session is serving the client. And that's the purpose. All right, well, we've gone over time. Like I said, I can talk about this quite a lot. So thank you for jumping in with me as well. Two more things. Continues the coaching agreement in the direction of the client's desired outcome. We've talked about that, unless the client indicates otherwise. So again, we're moving in the direction of the client's desired outcome. Can you hear the questions that drop out of that? And the final one, partners with the client to end the coaching relationship or the coaching session in a way that honors the experience. So some lovely questions that might drop out of that. What have you experienced? What have you learned from the coaching conversation? What value have you received? Any of those kind of questions are really quite nice as well. Is there anything else that would make this more complete for you? So you can hear all those beautiful coaching questions that drop out. They are all part of core competency. So more things for us to consider as we go along. Alrighty, there you go. So that gives us an idea. I'm very excited for International Coach Week. I hope you can all register and be part of International Coach Week next week. Let me say happy International Coach Week to you as well. We've got some great sessions coming up. So thank you for joining me today. Thanks for jumping in with the chat. It's really lovely. And I will put the CC out for you as well. Apologies for going over time, but hopefully you're getting lots of extra questions that you can actually ask. Thank you, everyone. I look forward to catching up with you at